Hello everyone. In this video we will see how to install GNS3 on Linux Mint. You can also use this method to install GNS3 on Ubuntu as well, basically on any Debian based Linux. So generally if we want to install anything on Linux Mint, what we do is we go to Software Manager, which is the App Store or like a Play Store in Android where we get all the applications. So here we can search for GNS3. We would have something here for GNS3, but I would not recommend to install this one. So there is this GNS3 available. The problem here is this is a very old version, 0.8.7, and at this state we are using 2.1.x, so this is quite old. As you can see, the comments also say that it is good but old program, it needs an update. So we won't use Software Manager to install, rather we will use something else. Now if you just look up the internet, if you open up a browser and go to your search engine asking for install GNS3 on Linux. If you just search this, the very first link is a document from GNS3. If you open that, it has a method to install GNS3 on all the types of Linux. So the very first one is Ubuntu based distributions such as Linux Mint, which is what we are using. So it just says that to run these commands. Now the catch here is they are missing one statement. We would also need to install GNS3 server. I am not sure why they have missed it. Maybe because they would be under the impression that the server would be installed on some other machine. But generally that is not the case. We, like personal users, we install everything locally. So we would also need to install GNS3 server. So let's see how do we do that. So just open up a terminal and type those commands literally. So we would first add repository ppa gns3/ppa. Now why we are doing this? We are doing this because this GNS3 is not listed by default in the default repositories, which is why we were not seeing it in the software manager. So it's just asking to confirm, hit enter. So we are adding a new repository where this latest GNS3 would be available. Once that is added, we would run the further commands. Okay, the other one is sudo apt-get update. This would update the list of all the repositories, including the GNS3 PPA. You can see that right there. So once it has refreshed all the list, we can just go ahead and do sudo apt-get install GNS3 GUI. So this will give us a confirmation that the following new packages will be installed. So we can just go through the list what all things can be installed. We would need GNS3 GUI. All these are the dependencies, and we would also need Wireshark. This is very important. So let's just hit Y, enter. This might take some time depending on your internet connection. So to download all the packages and install them one by one. So this is what the okay, here. Now while it was installing Wireshark, it is asking us whether you want the non-super users to be able to capture packets or not. We are not super users. In my case, the username Ashraf is not a root user, but we want Ashraf to be able to capture packets. So we would just move the arrow from no to yes and hit enter. So I was saying that this is what has been given here to install GNS3. Now it also has information if you want to install IOU, but for starters we don't need that. All we need is GNS3 GUI and GNS3 server, which is not given here. So if we let this finish first, we would also have to install GNS3 server. As I said, this would take some time. There were lots of packages. If you don't install GNS3 server, it would give an error somewhere. While you start the GNS3 for the first time, you have to configure it. So if there is no GNS3 server, you might get that error. Okay, it's about to end. Okay, so once it has installed GNS3 GUI, we would need to run the same command for GNS3 server. Sudo apt-get install GNS3 server. Again, it says that the following new packages will be installed, which is what I want to do. So yes, enter. Again, it is downloading the new packages from internet and installing. This might take time depending on your connection speed. Alright, the same question. Do you want non-super users to be able to run GNS3? Which is what I want to do. So yes, hit enter. In a restricted environment, you would not want to do this. So which is why they give this prompt for Wireshark as well as GNS3 server. But since this is for our personal use, we are the only users to do this, so we would just accept it by saying yes. In a restricted environment like colleges and universities and offices, we might not want to do that as yes, which is why GNS3 is giving us an option for that. So there are two things here. One is the installation, and next we would look at the configuration of GNS3. So when you start the GNS3 for the first time, you would have to configure the server and the initial setup. Also, we would have to configure Wireshark as well, because by default we won't be able to capture packets. So here, the installation is complete. To verify, you can click on the Linux Mint menu and search for GNS3, which is what we have here. Also, you can search for Wireshark. That is also present. Okay, so let's start GNS3. Okay, so it has some options. If you want to run the topologies in a different VM, select that. But I just want to run all the topologies on my computer, which is why this is selected. Click on next. Here, now that we have installed GNS3 server, it is giving us this location of user bin GNS3 server. If we hadn't had installed this GNS3 server, it wouldn't have located it and we wouldn't be able to proceed further. So if you are facing such problem, just go ahead and install GNS3 server like this statement. Sudo apt-get install GNS3 server. Once you do that, you would be able to proceed further from here. Click on next. It will run a test and the connection is successful. Click on next. Finish. Now, At this point it is asking to add some new template appliances, but I am not going to do this in this video. We will check that in another separate video for that. So I'll just hit cancel here. So every time you boot GNS3, you either have to open a project or create a new project. So let's just say test. Okay, so that is it. We now have GNS3 installed here. I also wanted to show one thing here. If we open Wireshark, we won't be able to capture packets by default. As you can see, I do not see any of my interfaces listed here. I do have interfaces like my Ethernet network, my wired Ethernet, my loopback, and my wireless LAN, my wireless Ethernet. There are 3 interfaces on my laptop, but I cannot see any of them because the user Ashraf is not permitted yet to capture packets. Yes, we did allow it for non-super users to be able to do that, but there is a group called Wireshark. If we look at groups, oh sorry, it was groups itself. So we can see that Ashraf is a member of all these groups, which does not have Wireshark in it. So this page itself says this somewhere down here sudo user mod. This says it for Docker, but we would also have to do it for Wireshark. So we'll just repeat that, sudo user mod, add a user to a group name is Wireshark and the username is Ashraf. So the statement says modify the user, add it to a group called Wireshark, and the username is Ashraf. So we have added Ashraf to Wireshark. We will also add that user to ubridge. We will also add him to libvirt, and we will also add him to KVM. Why did I add these things? Because this document says us to do so. Add the user into all these 4 groups. Alright, once we have this, we would have to log out and log back in from the system. So I will close everything. I have to close the Wireshark. I'll have to close the GNS3. Yes, I want to exit. Now I'll have to go here, log out and log back in. So I'll have to pause the recording. I'll resume once I log back in. So see you soon. Alright guys, so I have logged out and logged back into my system. Now when I go and open Wireshark, let's see. Okay, now you can see I can see these interfaces. So I can select it and start capturing. Yes, start. So you can see we have captures getting started. So if I open a browser, in the back end, I'll have all these captures, which is amazing. So yeah, you can see that earlier I wasn't able to capture packets. Now I can after modifying the user. So that is it for this video. In the next videos, we would start configuring GNS3. We would start to add topologies and capture live packets from the topologies. Alright then, I hope this was informative. I hope this helps you somewhere. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up in the next video. Thank you. Bye.